Welcome to the second episode of In Motion. This show is about basketball, obviously, but we're also highlighting the benefits of strength and motion, just basketball in general. But do not, I repeat, do not adjust your screens. That is Mark Reed and G. Gervin on camera. Not a lot of y'all can get this to happen. I got to give myself a golf clap. I
Hey,
made
hey.
G joining us live from Detroit, getting ready to get the big three rolling. Co-founders, is that okay? Co-founders of Strength and Motion?
Yes,
All
yes.
right,
Yes,
I'll let
sir.
y'all have it from here. G, go ahead and introduce yourself. They know
Well,
Mark
G.
already.
Gervin, Strength in Motion. I'm co-founder, of course, along with Mark. I handle a lot of the international stuff. I'm currently living in Stockholm, Sweden. And so, yeah, man, good to be here. Good to be on the show. Sorry I missed last week, man. Missed
No,
y'all
you had some
guys.
stuff going on. Life happens. Life be lifing. You,
Yeah,
Mr.
man.
Reed,
Mark Reed, man,
put that
co-founder.
mic a little closer, Mark. Come on
Oh,
now.
okay, man, my bad,
There we
I'm
go.
learning. I'm learning.
It's all good. There we go.
Mark Reed, co-founder. Episode 2. Rudy got me out here again.
Yeah, I did. Let's just get right into it. I've been, back and forth with Mark and G over the past couple of days. And just a quick tease also, we got a huge strength and motion announcement that we'll do a little bit later on in the show. So stay tuned, lock in, watch the whole episode. Huge strength and motion announcement that the people need to know about. But Mark texted me a couple days ago about this new NCAA ruling on profit sharing. And
Wow.
yeah, you wanted to discuss that. So let's get right into it and what that means for, I don't know, the smaller schools, kids coming out of high school, kids coming out of post grad schools. What is this new NCAA rule about, and what does it mean for the landscape?
Man, it means get your ass in the gym.
Okay, we get right
I
to it.
mean, they are giving away money, man. So, um, it's more than just getting your education now, man. You're making a way for yourself to be an owner right away.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Go to school, learn what you need to learn, but you can really make an investment in yourself without owing anyone, right? And so with the profit sharing, man, these universities are allowed to pay up to 50% of whatever revenue they make for that individual sport.
Mm,
So if you go to Duke, that's one of the bigger markets.
obviously.
Texas, University of Texas. And so, man, it's just more incentive, in my opinion. It's more incentive, man, because really all these young men play for free, or some of them have to pay to play,
Some of them are paying to play.
paying to play. So it's
Yeah.
giving you an opportunity, man, to really, get a step ahead in life, just by doing what you love to do.
G, you having to chime in on the revenue sharing?
Oh man, I think it's a blessing, man, for athletes, and like Mark said, man, it's more incentive for these guys to really get after it, and then it makes the competition super duper strong. And so, all these schools and stuff, man, they're going to be asking and demanding ready players, and so it's going to
Yeah.
be up to the individual players themselves because the demand is going to be more. They're not going to have time to develop these guys, especially if they're going to be paying them. And so these guys, man, but it's a tremendous opportunity. It's going to change the game.
So how do you go about deciding? You brought up something, developing. How do you go about thinking about, like, okay, I want to bring this kid in? So is it nobody's going to be developed, or like do you pick and choose which guys, like, you know what, his ceiling is really high, I'll take a flyer on him, which still makes it a little bit more difficult for the kid.
Yeah. My opinion, man, it's going to be very difficult for the high school kid. We kind of talked about it on the first
Yeah,
show.
we did.
Top 100s. It's going to be the top 100 kids are going to be getting um, the bulk, right? And then it's going to fall into where you were lucky to slide in. If you were blessed enough to go to a low major and you have a good season, I'm gonna grab you. But it's going to be very, very difficult for the marginal high school player. The one that's almost talented enough. He just needs to work on this or that. Those opportunities are going to be very limited. Even for, everybody says, well, man, you can just go JUCO. JUCO is going to be different now. You know,
What the competition level is
Oh,
going to
oh,
be better.
100%, 100%. You know, you have to find a way to stay relevant. And so if I don't get the D1 or the D2, but I'm a college level player, you know, with grades, without grades, whatever it may be, you need a platform. You know, you have to be playing. You know, it's it's one in a billion that, you know, a college coach at the park and offers you a scholarship.
Right. Well,
And then on top of that, I'm sorry about that, Rudy,
no, no,
but
go ahead.
just on top of what Mark was saying, you got international kids that are coming in, and coaches are feeling a lot more confident in a lot of these international kids because of the level they played on in Europe. You know, they know some of these kids came in playing at the men's level. And so so they kind of feel a little more trust for some of these guys coming in. And we can kind of see it already. These international kids are coming in by the drones because they seem to show a more appreciation for it. And so that's what our program is really trying to mold the two, and get both, to understand these kids that come in from Europe, man, and for our domestic kids to see how much they appreciate it, how much, they is all or nothing for these guys. And so, it's good on top of that. And so that's what makes the competition really, really stiff for these guys.
It's In Motion, episode 2. Now, I'm outside looking in. Okay. So obviously, I'll lie my hat with on the domestic side because this is a huge conversation because y'all brought up the international side of it. Are all the domestic kids being lumped into one bowl? Is it because to me, again, I'm outside looking in. I'm not, questioning what y'all are saying, but I'm saying like, are we giving them a fair shake? Because I feel like if I got two kids and one's from Sweden and one's from, you know, Dallas, I'm automatically, it feels like the basketball world automatically is giving the edge. I feel like the kid from Sweden comes in with the edge just because he's from Sweden and he's been in certain programs. And like G was saying, maybe you feel like off the rip before you know either the kid, he might have a better appreciation for it. Are the domestic kids getting a fair shake?
Let me ask you this,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna put it on you. So we have two kids. We'll say equal talent.
Equal talent.
Equal talent. One kid has played for 6 different high schools,
Okay.
12 different AAU teams.
Okay.
And then you have one kid that's been in one program since he was 8 years old.
Dang. Okay.
Right? So when it comes down to it, and especially in the times we are now, it's a 1 year contract, basically.
That we talked about that in
It's a
episode
1 year contract. So do you want someone who's, used to jumping around, or do you want someone who's been loyal?
Interesting take.
You know what I
I
mean?
want you if since you asked me, I would definitely probably lean toward the loyalty.
Yes. Okay.
Trust them. You're gonna trust them a little more.
You can
Yes.
trust them, but also in Europe, in America, you have your reclasses and all of that, which people complain about. At the end of the day, you're going to have to play against the same kids sooner or later, right?
True.
But in Europe, you can be 14, 15, playing against 25-year-olds in practice with 25-year-olds, seeing how 25-year-olds move on a daily
The
basis.
physicality.
Yeah, but we're talking basketball, but also just off the court. How are they eating?
Yes.
It's not many pros in Europe. I'm not going to say all of them, but McDonald's isn't really an option.
And even if it is, it's still better than ours.
Yeah, it's most definitely. But it's just different, man. I'm an American, you know what I mean, and
Of
I'm
course.
a Texan, you
Of
know what I'm
course.
saying. So I'm full support of Texas basketball, American basketball, man. But 2 practices, 6 games,
It's
six
not evening out.
practices, 1 game. It's not evening out, man. It's just they're catching up to us. They're
Are
truly
they catching up or they caught?
Now we won the gold medal, man. They ain't caught us yet.
They ain't
Okay.
called it yet. We still have those X factors, and we still and we get them on the athletic side too. And so they're almost there though, and you see it in the MVP races. You see it in the way
First,
these. You see, like Illinois. Illinois is going to be internationals, all internationals. They're starting five.
what?
They're going to be from the Balkans, and so yeah, man. So we got to just take note and take these messages. These coaches are, and they're gonna pay money for them. And so I think that's the importance of strength and motion and us being able to get that message out to these young fellas, and then to create a platform for them to play on, and so that way they can kind of compete, especially our Texas kids, our San Antonio kids. And I think that's the reason why we really started this was to give them a head start. We got an opportunity. We play in Europe. We play, a junior college schedule. We get a chance to play around the world. We're in talks with OTE and big other programs and stuff. And so I think that's the draw that we bring in is we're trying to compete and play on the scale that some of these European kids are playing on and just naturally. And so that way we can get our domestic kids up to speed. These kids, just think the European kids play with the shot clock. So just think how the thinking and the pace has to be. In America we don't play with the shot clock.
So it's
They'll dribble the ball out.
yeah, it's a whole lot of quote unquote bad work. Mark brought up something interesting before the show started. Only in the ESPN Top 100, only 9 kids are going to traditional high schools.
Yes.
So then you got 91 where?
Private schools, Catholic schools, every other
Strength and
school.
well, yeah,
Strength and motion.
strength and motion,
Yeah,
which is why we're here, right?
every opportunity to get the matchups you need to be a top 100. You could be the most dominant player. Back to what we talked about, being the best in San Antonio. What does it equate to? You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to be the best in your area to be considered a top level guy. But if you're playing, you have a 32 game season, and in your high school season you only play one other guy that's potentially Division 1. How dominant are you?
Right.
But if you play every night is someone that's equal or better than you, that's how we can see where you really are, right? And then it's not the kid's fault. It's not UIL's fault. It's no one's fault. It's just the traditional route. It makes it a lot harder to get what you're trying to get. If you're
Yeah.
not getting the matchups, if you're not on the AAU or SHU team where you get to play against a top 10 kid 2 or 3 times in the summer, where he's top 10 in the country. When we matched up, I did this against him, and I did that. And so yeah,
Those black.
it's growing and changing, and you got to stay ahead of the curve, man, to give yourself a true opportunity.
Before I chime in, G, did you want to chime in on that because I have a
Like he said, those platforms are important now, and so those platforms usually make all the difference. There's only very few kids that kind of slide in, fall through the cracks, and so that's what most of those coaches, man, they're trying to save time too, and so they'll go to those direct platforms. They're not going to do their due diligence, real tough homework like they used to, and drive to these little towns and go look at these little kids. They don't got time for that no more. And so, the way the portal is set up and stuff, man, you got older guys, 26, 27-year-old guys that can come in as freshmen and
right.
play. And
Well,
so
so
they ain't, you know.
my thing is, let me put my mom. Let me because y'all deal with this at Strength and Motion. Let me go. Let me because pops may be a little bit more understanding on the route that the kid has to go. But mom, when I listen to pro athletes, a bunch of them say, "I promised my mom I would get my education." Mom is going to be the one to come to y'all and say, "Okay, I hear everything you saying, Mark. I hear everything you saying, G. But is he getting his education? Where's the balance between putting in that work, like Mark started the show saying, getting your ass in the gym, / we're Americanized. What about my son's or daughter's education?"
You want to start off, G? You want me to take it?
Go ahead, you can start off with it. I play.
All right, man. So
Because I think it's more tradition than it is like right or wrong.
Yeah,
okay, so
there you go.
that's really a whole show. But
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna summarize it real quick. I'm
Okay,
gonna summarize real
give me the
quick.
cliff notes.
I have my degree in education. My mom is a high school counselor, my stepmom, educator. So I come from a background of education,
Okay.
right? COVID showed us you do not have to sit in the classroom for 8 hours
That's a mic drop.
to get what you need
That's a
done.
mic drop. It
Man,
showed us that Walmart didn't need to be open 24 hours. It showed us a
it,
lot. It
it,
was awful, but it
it
showed us a lot.
exposed
I'm
a
fitness
lot.
isn't open 24 hours anymore. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it opened our eyes to a lot of things where, you know, and I'm gonna let G expand on how it works in Europe. But man, if you're taking, you know, the what is required by the NCAA, it's only 16 classes,
Okay.
right? It's 16 classes that are required. The rest are, you know, Texas. Each state has their individual class count for you to graduate, right? And so a lot of the classes, home ec,
Oh man.
band.
Come on now. We don't need. Yeah. Okay.
So you understand
Point
what I'm
made.
saying?
Point made.
So if you can do everything you need to do in 4 hours, that gives you an additional 4 hours of being in the gym
Or the track, or wherever, or the
or
weight room,
the weight room,
wherever.
or, you know, for anything, you know, even like let's take it past basketball. If I want to be the best pianist in the world, I need to be putting in my hours daily. Just like if I want to be um, an accountant, I need to be working on math every day. If I want to be an engineer, I need to be putting on a little bit more time on
And your
exactly what I want
craft.
to do on my craft,
Mhm.
where, you know, the other stuff is the other stuff to be well rounded, but my focus is this, right? And so
Mhm.
right now we're at a time where every mom wants their kid to go to college,
Yes.
right? But now I can make $1 million while I'm in college,
While I'm getting that degree.
while I'm getting my
Right.
degree, you know, so it just changes it. And so like G can tell you like
Yeah.
the schedule in Europe, how those kids are doing it.
Oh yeah, man. Like in Europe, these kids by lunchtime they're pretty much done. And so,
Like
like Mark said,
well.
those filler classes, that we grew up on and stuff, man, they don't have those. And so, these kids, they can go home for lunch when they want to. They come back, they might have another class, a class and a half, and then they're working out. They're working out during school, and then they're working out coming out right after school, going to they have a practice, and so it's school, especially in Europe. It's not a lot of time wasted with a lot of hours. And so, they go get the work that they need. It took me a while to adjust to it too. I was like, man, y'all done already? And yeah, I'm done. I did all what I needed to do, and that's a normal thing. And these kids come over to America, and they make straight A's easily when they have to take the education system here. And
Interesting.
so it's not like more schooling is going to make you smarter. It's just they work on the things they need to work on, and then like Mark said, then they're working on their craft. That they're playing hockey, they're working on their craft. That they're playing football, or we call soccer, and then they're working on their craft and they're playing basketball. And so now they're able to, not waste a whole lot of time, and then they're not super duper beat at the end when, because they in Europe they usually practice in the evening, and so they're not beat down and stuff by that time. And so they're able to have fresh practices, and they had those that break in between, and they're still getting their education. They're graduating, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. But it's just not a lot of fillers. And so when they come over here to America, it's just school's pretty easy for them, and then they're able to just to focus on playing basketball, and they just appreciate it more. And so that's what that's the cool thing to see about when they come from abroad, just the appreciation.
Right.
Let me
Go
say
ahead,
one
Mark.
more
No,
thing
go
here.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So and another thing that's very different in Europe, man, it's everyone is not going to college, right? And I think the European culture that we've been exposed to, they're very honest about it. You know, like we're not going to force you to go to college, but we're going to teach you a craft. You know, we're going to teach
A
you
trade,
a
whatever it is.
trade,
Right.
whatever it is. And so the beautiful thing about what they're doing in Europe, man, is school and sports are two different entities, right? So
Definitely.
in America, man, I
In
couldn't.
America, it's one though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's one because like if I can't pass this math class, I can't hoop.
Fact.
You know what I mean? And so, how does that work? You know what I mean? Like we're taking away someone who has a special talent, and because he's lacking in something that it's a necessity, right? But you know, I'm an educator, so I'm saying this from my
You
heart.
can do that. You're
Yeah.
qualified, right?
I've never used college algebra since I passed college algebra. Right? You know what I mean?
Fair. That's fair. That's a fair take.
You know what I'm saying? And it's the truth. Um, so me not being able to do college algebra should not affect my passion,
Mm,
my love, what I'm gonna really pour everything into. Yes, you have to be held accountable because we do want educated people. We want to keep pushing education
there's
because
certain basics you have to know.
yes, 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 for sure. But there has to be another way where you're gonna take away a kid's passion. Where a lot of kids, if they're not hooping, they ain't going to school anyway.
I don't know. I don't know if I make it out of high school without soccer.
There you
I
go.
don't know.
Exactly.
I
So
knew I
what's your
had the pass to
motivation?
play. Right.
What's your motivation? And so like on what Mark was saying, just think, I was having this discussion today, and there's a study, and like an NBA study, like a Harvard NBA study, and talking about how the difference between kids that travel, and more than the kids that sit in classrooms and are educated. The
Mm,
studies show that the kids that travel end up being more intelligent in the long run because of just the exposure. And so that's what I think the game really kind of does for, and that's comes with all sports, that exposure that it gives you to different cultures and stuff, man, and different ways of life, just through the love of the game. I think that's just so important in the educational aspect of it. That's the reason why we take guys to Germany and go play in Munich or go play in Barcelona
that's
or go
awesome.
play in Hungary. And
That's
so they can see these places and they can be like, and learn a different way. Every time we take these kids to these events internationally, we always put a tour on top of it. And so these kids get a chance to see how these people live, see the city, and that's education in itself. And I
mhm.
think that goes a lot further than these kids really sitting in the classroom for 7 hours and learning about, home ec or flower smelling and things like that. And so I just think, with what we're doing and with the international appeal and the events and kids moving around, and this might even be planning a tournament in Kentucky, it's still going to be education, is because you're getting in those different cultures and those different genres. And I think that just it's just a lot easier for kids to learn that way.
Absolutely, and because a lot of times, I mean, just speaking on San Antonio, you don't know much more than 410 and I-10, and you get to see.
Right.
281.
Yeah, 281 too. Yeah,
Exactly.
you're right. That topic could be a whole show. We have to bring that back up. And another topic that could possibly be its own show is, again, I didn't play organized basketball, but I would go to the little pickup games here and there. The big topic in the basketball world, the past couple of weeks is just going to hoop slash the trainer. Now,
Mm.
I would see y'all walk into the gym, and if it looked like good run, y'all lace up. If it looked like it wasn't going to benefit y'all travel to the next gym. But y'all came up, if and y'all can stop me if I'm wrong. Y'all came up finding somewhere to just go hoop. But I think there is a place for the trainer. How do y'all? What's y'all's take on the balance between the two?
So for me, I didn't have a trainer until G got one, and we were pros.
Y'all were already pros though, right?
Might have been
Mhm.
pros already. Like
Yeah, we
what
just
what
just turned
what
pro.
we did, man. We were like, I'm speaking for G right now, but we were blessed. he was blessed, and I coattailed. Um,
Benefited.
benefited. You know what I'm saying? However you want to say it. Man, we had ice. You know what I mean? But
That's a great. I mean, that's a great tool. By
yeah,
the way,
but ice didn't wasn't really putting us through what a
Mm-mm.
trainer does. We just got shots. So we would
mm,
hoop all day, and then we would go to the Concord at night and get up shots, and that was it. But we hooped all day, you know,
Oh,
all day, every day. That was it. So you watch a game. Oh man, I like that move. When I go to the gym, I'm working on that all day today. Somebody gonna be mad at me, right? And then that's how you
interesting.
got your reps. You know what I mean? And then the trainer came along. I want to say a little later. We had a trainer, but it was more so for lifting weights.
yeah,
Still
it was
wasn't even.
strength. It was
Yeah, it wasn't
strength.
even basketball. It was strength and conditioning. Um,
Yeah,
but man, we played one on one till we were about to fight. Like,
I love it. I
every
love it.
day. Every day.
yeah,
We
buddy.
hoop. If we weren't tired enough from the runs, check up. And
Love it.
really, like I said, I'm kind of speaking for G2, but that's how I'm good in San Antonio, man. There's not a lot of guys that can go to, every part of San Antonio
Every part.
and feel safe. But it's just the relationships we made.
Just hooping.
Just hooping
Through the game.
five
Through
deep.
the game. Through the
Y'all
game.
hooping at
Man.
Sam Houston. Gee, let's get our five. We going to Sam Houston, or we going to John Jay or Marshall or whatever it would be. But it was
Warhawk, Randolph, Fort Sam. It
Randall,
didn't
all
matter.
that. It
Right.
didn't matter, man. And then if you wanted to fight, we would fight,
Yeah.
and then we'll see you next week. We're gonna hoop
Right.
again, and that was it. You know what I
Right.
mean? It was never nothing. But um, I think
Yeah,
you
man.
do need a trainer now, right? I think you do need someone to, help fine tune certain things. But at the same time, man, like your trainer has to be realistic. You know what I mean? Let me watch a couple of your game films. Let me talk to your high school coach, or whoever to tune up what is needed for you to get on the court for this coach
Right.
right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like what Mark said. I mean, the game has changed now. These kids are playing so much in a more of an organized
Control
set
environment. Right.
now. Yeah, and more so than we were doing. All we had was a summer league in the pro am, and now,
Mhm.
there's every and it's because of profit, reasons. But there's leagues everywhere, and so. That's another thing. We had to find runs everywhere because there weren't leagues everywhere. But at the same time, you're playing against a little bitty guard one day. You're playing against the essays on the east side over in Burbank, and then you got the brothers over in Sam Houston you playing against, and then so like Mark said just looking back at it when Mark was talking about it, it's nostalgic, man, because we actually went everywhere to try to
Every.
find a run. And you can ask any of these brothers, especially in our age group, man, and we went everywhere we possibly could to go find a run. And like you said, you built relationships just in the mix of it. Mark would be doing talking all the shit, and then and I'll be doing the playing. I wouldn't say much, but it was just one of those tandems, man, where we earned a lot of respect around the city, and then it also got us ready for if when we was in high school, it prepared us. You gonna have that matchup again during the season, and now you got him because you didn't play against him during the off season and
He
stuff,
can't
and you
mug you.
saw.
He can't
Oh
mug
yeah,
you
now
like he.
you give him that look like you know what time it is, and so that was a way that you kind of got your
Right.
respect. And so the guys don't they're not going out earn it's the highest league too. The guys ain't challenging one another for respect
Mm.
daily. They almost kind of giving it up now and stuff because of just the way things are. And so I just feel, we were challenged daily. We, the city challenged us. Me and Mark, we played 1-on-1 till, like you said, we really kind of mad at each other. We get in the car, There's not a lot of talking. Music turned up. You know what I'm saying? A couple minutes and stuff, and then now we cool again. We got a conversation going. But we were just that competitive. It never went past that. But Mark used to prepare me in college for our games. We would play Cincinnati. We were playing DePaul, and we were playing these guys 1 and 2. And before the game, you got Kenyon Martin and those guys warming up, Pete Michael and them warming up on the one end, me and Mark playing 1-on-1 on the other. And so, just because those, we just felt like, man, you had to keep sharp. You had to stay sharp. And so, the trainer part is good in a way where, if you're trying to stay sharp. But I think it's overused now and it's saturated. And now I feel, me and Mark had this discussion. A lot of kids just fall in love with the workout. And then when it's time to play and stuff, nah, I'm cool. And so they kind of
Too
shy away,
cool.
from
Too
that
cool.
challenge.
And again,
Yeah, they
right. I
don't want
wasn't.
that challenge.
Yeah, I wasn't a hooper. So, one of y'all walk in the gym or anybody else that was prominent around that time, and it's automatically we turn up. Oh, there go Mark. There go G. Let's get
Yeah.
like we trying to do it to him. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Especially since we nostalgia era. You go to
Oh yeah.
Sam. You go over to Sam. They thought
Come
we
on.
they thought we
Man,
were they thought
soft.
we were soft. They thought we had the silver spoon.
Soft.
So it
Yeah.
was it was just
Northeast
yeah.
brothers.
Oh, y'all Northeast, but y'all got Central AC.
Northeast.
You know what I'm saying? It would just
Yeah.
be different. So there's something that the cones and the pads can't give you.
No, no, definitely not. Man, it's man, basketball is mental. You know what I mean? Like I've met some of the best noise talkers in the world. Can't hoop dead, but they can talk so much that it'll get you out of your game.
Out of your game, and next thing you know, you sitting down
Yeah, or you fighting.
or you fighting. One of the
Yeah,
two, right?
it left basketball. You know what I mean? And so, like you're saying, man, going to Sam Houston, man, like I used to love going over there.
It was a different
Different.
Yeah.
it was a
They used
different
to
game you had to go
foul.
play.
They used to
Yeah,
go extra hard at
not
us.
give you your foul.
Nah, and I was with it. You know what I mean?
Play
Like
hard.
played
Yeah.
Played
hard, man. We
hard.
needed that. You know what I'm saying? But then, like a whole nother thing, but small ball, right? That's been a new thing in the last 10 years.
Always, yeah.
Come on, man. We San Antonio, man. Small ball starts in second grade. You
We
know,
all, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
There wasn't that
Hispanics,
many
man.
6'8",
Like,
6'10" dudes
no,
walking
man.
around, right?
I have to give it up, man, for a lot of my success on playing Burbank, on playing Lanier, Highlands. You know,
Yeah.
those type of teams, man. Where they
Great
didn't
point.
have nothing,
Lead.
man. That ball used to be moving, and you had to chase. The little Mexican guys, man, and they be fast and can shoot. And so, like,
And knew how to play
And
together.
shoot it.
no, they had to play that
And
way because they didn't have the dunker. They didn't have the 6'8". Their center was 6'3".
It's a good conversation, yeah.
Their center was 6'3", man. So we grew up playing against that, man. Like in from sixth to eighth grade, I don't really remember beating Mexican teams.
Really.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
man.
I like
They
they
get after it.
they used to play so hard, so fast, and they played the right way. You know what I mean? Like damn, like part of me growing up, man, I played with the Outlaws. I used to go play with them as much as possible. You know what I mean? Big Lupe. Lupe was the center. All he did was foul and set hard screens.
Right.
But man, that ball used to move and you have to be chasing. And we played in them hot ass gyms where like I stayed in shape, and going to college, like college was easy for me. Learning, you're supposed to be learning how to play, man. But man, I had to give a lot of credit to them guys, man, because they had to play a certain way to have success, man, and it,
And
and it was good.
to bring it full circle, you got to play.
You gotta play.
Gotta
You got
play.
to play. There's a place for the trainer, but there's also a place where I'm a capitalist. I ain't hating on nobody making money. Where these dudes are just moms just get giving them 100 an hour just because. And I'm not knocking anybody's hustle. Like that's not what I'm here to do. But it's also they running a jig. A lot of these dudes are running a jig. But like I said, G, full circle, you have to play.
You gotta play.
Gotta
Got to play.
play. Gotta play, man. You gotta put yourself in those pressure situations.
Yeah, and it is pressure because you walk in the gym and there's 30 dudes. you sit down, you ain't playing again. To me, that's pressure for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, but
Us, that was pressure. You had to win.
you play with some older guys and stuff, man, and you gotta earn their respect. And you don't make a
That
couple
too.
shots, man, you're not getting picked up.
And then in our era, man, if you lost, you couldn't go sit on your phone.
No,
You had to sit there and
No.
conversate. Like, come
you
on,
had to go
man.
back. Hey man, who got next?
Who
You
got
got all
next?
five.
Yeah.
It was
Oh
the
no,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
I
you
was
had to
here
get
before
shots
him. Ain't no
up.
way in hell he playing before. You know what I
right,
mean? You
right,
had the
right, right.
politic. You had to do everything.
Yeah, that could be definitely be a show in itself. But Mark, I'm gonna hand it over to you. As we announced earlier during the at the beginning of the show, Strength and Motion got motion. Is that what the kids say? Strength and Motion got motion.
Yeah, a little bit.
Y'all got a huge announcement, and I'll give the floor over to y'all to
Go ahead,
announce.
G
G,
man.
you
I'll
want
let
to
you do it.
make this announcement? To me, this is a huge deal in y'all's air in y'all's arena.
Oh, oh yeah. Well, we, previously in the previous years, we were, basically a prep school, and
Post.
we were more of a post grad prep school, and so, we were catering more to the kids that graduated high school and that had that gap year, and
Mm-hmm.
so now, man, I'm excited, and we're about to or we turned to a high school, and so now we've partnered up with George Gervin, and we've gotten a situation where now we can be able to facilitate and help the high school players, man, be able to have that same that same route that a lot of these prep guys have been on, and be able to start it a lot earlier, and then be able to start it where that we can really kind of develop a relationship and and develop really kind of develop their skills, and then also they can get the education that that the Gervin that gives out, so these guys can get graduated. And it goes back to what we were talking about. We lean it out, we take out all the fillers, and we get these guys the classes and the schooling they need in order to get these scholarships, and then we work on and develop their game, and at the same time they're able to play against high level high school, high level preps,
Mm-hmm.
and these guys will be able to go international and be able to get that education like we've been talking about. So I'm excited. I'm excited what's coming up. It's going to be a big change. We're really going to, be, hitting the ground hard, man, and just letting everybody know that, we're here to really help the city of San Antonio and the state of Texas and just internationally. But we're thinking the city of San Antonio first,
I
and
love
so that's our first thought. And then so I'm excited what's coming up.
So is this high school? So is the post grad? You just going strictly high school
No,
now?
we're gonna have both.
You're still gonna
We're
have both.
gonna have
Okay,
We're
both.
gonna
that's
have both.
great.
Yeah, yeah,
That
we're
makes
gonna
this
have
even
both.
a bigger deal.
We're gonna
So
have both, so we'll be able to combine both together.
thing I like about this, Mark, and you can expand on it, is you talked about that y'all do have AAU, but you like them young. But this is also an opportunity to let those kids and their parents know it's almost like since G's overseas, it's like Barca.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like Liverpool now. AAU strength and motion, then you come on into strength and motion high school, and if hey, let's say you still need a little bit of work,
we
you
got the
come
post
over to
grad.
you got over to post grad. But now it's a system that y'all I don't like the word control, but y'all can develop
We can
Develop.
say there's a plan,
a plan. Okay.
right? You know what I mean? Like you have to have a plan in place. You know that's the biggest thing. And for us, man, we've had a lot of success with the post grad. But more so with the post grad, um, it's we're building, but more so fixing and polishing,
I
right?
like that. I like
Getting it,
those words.
you know what I mean? We're fixing some things that need to be fixed. We're polishing up a certain things, and then we hope that it looks good enough for someone to give these young men an opportunity. But us moving into the high school, we get to build. You know what I mean? And I think that's where I say this for myself. That's where I get my enjoyment in basketball now. Someone can't use their left hand. We work on it. We drill it. Now they can go left. You know what I mean? And so we get to build, have 2 to 3 years with each one of these young men, and Like, we're having guys for 10 months, and we're getting them to some pretty good levels, where now we have you for 3 years. The schedule that we're going to play, the opponent you're going to match up against, you're going to be ready, and
So three
Mm.
years, it'll be sophomore to senior.
no, I'm just using an
Oh,
example.
okay.
No,
I see what you're saying. Okay,
we're
my
ninth
fault.
grade, ninth
Gotcha.
grade,
Okay, go ahead.
high
Ninth
school.
grade, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just I was just saying 3 years, but it gives us time where you get to see it on a daily basis, where you don't get to play the top 100 kid that often,
No,
but now you see 10 kids in the top 100 on a daily basis. Now that
I
becomes
love
your
Daily.
it.
comfort zone.
And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with playing the San Antonio schedule, but if we're trying to get an opportunity and we're trying to, get to that next level, it would behoove the kids to be able to match up against some of the top talent in the nation. And then next thing you know, they're going to see Kid X, but Kid, ABC from Strength and Motion also are on that stage now, and it's on them to
Yes,
do what you can in that moment.
yes,
I
yes,
love
yes.
that opportunity for them.
And no disrespect to, like Mark said, to San Antonio,
No,
UIL, SAISD, none of that stuff. But how, who's the best team in San Antonio this year?
Brennan,
Brennan probably.
Brandon. So how many guys off Brandon off that team got scholarships?
Maybe just
three.
Kingston. I know
Kingston,
Kingston.
Kingston
Who else?
only won to win Division 1. Kyle Gill went Division 2. And then they have a couple kids that I believe are going junior college.
And so, that alone. So as great as they played, and as hard as they work, and as great as those coaches put that team together, is over the years, man. We still feeling like, man, the only reward is that you only get a couple guys, and just think of how much time those guys put in over the years. AAU, I'm talking about besides school, because those kids played together, and so they spent so much time, home in their craft, and I think it was more the platform, because those kids could play. But I think if they had a better platform and they were playing against better talent on a daily basis, now you're getting recognized a little differently. And so, like, I thought that was a good team.
Great,
They
great team.
And
great
they
team.
were even, for a San Antonio team, they were blessed to do a lot more than your average San Antonio team
Yeah, they
has been
were.
Yep.
allowed to do. They went to some big time events and did really
Duncan's big
Saw
on
that.
well.
that. Yeah.
Saw
And
that.
did
Yeah.
really well, and hats off to them, man. Like, they did an amazing job.
Yeah,
Um,
buddy.
but then they came home to San Antonio, 30, 40, 50 point wins,
Just blowing teams
just
out. Where
blowing teams out, man. Where
you're
where
not ready for the team from Houston. You're
yeah,
just not prepared because you just haven't
you
seen
haven't
that
seen
level
it again. You
enough.
got comfortable again, and but, like, man, they did an amazing job, man. I think they do an amazing job over there. But also with that, man, they have a AAU system where those kids don't have to leave the city. The future, they've done a great job with the AAU as
Great
well,
job, future.
where they have something behind them that helps facilitate them getting to the next situation. And so, but everyone in San Antonio doesn't have that. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
back to what we said on episode 1, man, a lot of these kids have to leave. They have to go play on a shoe team out of Houston, or Dallas, or whatever it is, to get the recognition that I feel that they could receive here. Um, but it's all about the matchups, man. It's who you're playing. It's who you're playing. 30 points against Rudy J High, or 15 points against IMG.
I take the 15 against
You're gonna take
IMG.
the 15 every
I take
time.
the 15 against
And
IMG.
and and that's what we're trying to offer, man. We're not, I hate saying this out loud, man. We definitely want to win some games, but we want to have 100% on our kids getting scholarships.
Yep.
And whatever it takes for us to do that.
There's nothing
Um,
wrong with saying you want them to get the debt-free degree.
yeah,
If anybody has a problem with that, then just so be it. It's just
yeah,
tough cookies.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
at the end of the day, yeah, okay, we went 36-2, but what did it
Yeah.
amount to
Where's
for the
where's our
process?
success if
Right.
these guys ain't getting into school? We don't consider that successful with our winning percentage, and we've been taking pride over the years, man, and just making sure, and these are kids that we've been getting that aren't haven't been on the map at all. And it's just, it's like Mark said, it might have needed a little tweak here, tweak there, where, it's just maybe it was a mind shift. Or you have a kid coming in from Europe that says, hey, this is I love my year, but I ain't trying to study in school and do all this stuff y'all do here in America. I'm going back home to play pro. And we
Right.
didn't have guys to go over and do that, man. And so and we love it, man. We're able to see their successful journey playing professional. But they just knew, man, I ain't about to be studying and doing all this stuff. And so, you're able to get that balance.
I love this conversation. The thing I love most about it is because I got plenty of friends. Their kids that their parents have no lives, like no lives, because I'm talking about from 8 to 18. Every weekend they going to, and if you got a family of four, every weekend you going to spend $4, $5, $6, $700
Easy.
So with that said, I like this opportunity for San Antonio kids because maybe now with you join the Strength and Motion High School program, you could just do that from the school. What you're paying $600, $700 a weekend to do
But you
on a
still
regular
might have to
basis.
do that.
You,
Like,
oh no, I'm not saying that you
yeah,
take it out, but I'm saying now you kind of it can maybe take some of that pressure off of some
yes,
kids.
yes, most definitely, most definitely. And the biggest thing is, man, like in the summer, we have the gas, so the gaso's great,
That's
but
huge.
there's say there's 300 teams at the gaso for the weekend. You know what I mean? And so if you're not playing that right matchup, it goes back to who are you playing?
Oh,
You know what I mean? And so you need the summer. It's a necessity now. You have to be playing in the summer. I think you have to be very selective on who you're playing with. Make sure you're playing the right position that translates to college, and all of that plays a factor in it. But now, being in an environment where you know your normal high school practice, let's say it's 3 hours. Maybe you
sure,
do an hour before school, 2 hours after school,
sure,
or hour in athletics class. I mean, now you're putting in 5-6 hours a day for
Hmm.
the whole school year. And then we train in the summer as well. Like, we really don't stop. We
I
might
love
not
it.
have no games, but it doesn't stop. So now you've put in 30,000 hours during the school year, and then you go right into AAU. You know what I mean? You're a different beast. You know what I
I
mean?
love it.
We mandatory lift 5 days a week.
Mandatory.
Mandatory. You don't lift, you don't get to play. You know what I mean? That's one of the biggest differences between San Antonio and Houston and Dallas, the physicality. So to kind of level that out, we got to be bigger and stronger, faster to keep up. What they have a lot naturally.
Right.
So we have to do that. But it's just the little things that, um, not knocking anyone. We just not going to be sitting in the classroom for 8 hours.
I'm not.
That's just
Yeah.
not going to
That
be it.
model's dead. As far as, but I'm just saying, as far as where these, man, these, even the ones that are going to these top 100 schools, they're not doing that anymore. So these prep and these schools, they know better. They're getting these kids the education that is necessary to qualify them. And then
Hmm.
when they get to college, man, that's when when you start your education and stuff. But man, you're trying to qualify and then on you and on the court and then off the court, and that's really what it comes down to is qualification, and especially the kid that wants that scholarship.
Absolutely. And and it also, I mean, we can also be realistic in the situation, and we'll kind of end it here. We went a little long, but let's say you're not going to go pro. You use the program to get your debt-free degree to go be an engineer. Like there's still that side of it. You
Yeah,
know what?
one hundred
You still
percent.
there's still that side of it. So we're not. And again, I don't have to speak for y'all. I think everything y'all said is 1,000% true. But if you just want to use it because you want to go work for NASA, then do that. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like there's still that side of it.
Yeah. So what I think we're basically speaking athletics, right? Because if
Athletic.
I want to be an engineer, I
They could
can
just go be an
excel.
engineer.
Yeah, I can really excel in the classroom and get a academic
Great
scholarship,
point.
right? I
I
can
feel you.
still do
Mhm.
that. I can go to um, engineering camps. I can take STEM courses. There's a
Great point,
pathway
Mark.
for everyone to get debt free. That's the end goal,
Okay.
right? But
Mhm.
right now, and it could change tomorrow, I can't go to school to be an engineer and make $1 million while I'm in
Not while
school
you're in school.
being an engineer,
Oh,
right? So they've given
Yeah, I love
athletics
it.
a level of importance, right? It's a different level. You need that engineer, but for the school funding, for the new dorms, the
It's
good
sports.
cafeteria, it's
It's
sports, man.
sports.
It's
It's
sports,
sports.
boy,
and
they
and
paying it. Right?
yeah, it's an opportunity where if you lock in and you're disciplined, I think you can be successful in anything because you've built a foundation for yourself. Like I want to be the best, right? It takes sacrifice. It takes sweat. It takes, pain. It takes all these different things to be it in whatever you want to be. But right now in sports, hey man, it's an amazing time right now,
No, it's beyond amazing. I mean, just look at the women's softball championship with the young lady for Texas Tech.
million dollars
Yeah, $1 million.
that she would have played for free.
She would have played for free. Yeah, man. So, any closing remarks, fellas? G, anything?
Oh no, this was great, man. Like Mark was saying, man. These conversations, I think they're necessary. I don't think a lot of people really know all the things that we have to offer. The things that we just kind of touched on at the end. I think that's another conversation in itself. It's just as far as our network. I don't think a lot of people know how far our network goes. We're actually a part of the NBL team in Australia. We're part ownership of Brisbane, NBL team, and so I think that's a subject of another conversation. But our network is another strength that we use, and it's a who you know world. Education and all that stuff we were discussing is great. I agree, it's great, but things really happen through relationships, and so I think through having relationships with us and the relationships that we have globally. Like you said, a kid might not, he might know he's not going pro, but he could work in the shoe salesman. He can work for Nike. He can be, a sales rep for one of the big shoe
Coach,
companies.
whatever, right?
He can be coaching. Yeah, exactly. And so that's what we look at it more as use the network and that we have to kind of find your way in the game because we have a lot of kids that play up until a certain point and then now they're just part of our network and we're placing them in places and where they can really thrive and they can really find their strengths and stuff and so
Well,
like that's another conversation for itself, man. It's something we can discuss, but the network is big and so
hmm,
we try to utilize that to really really help the kids.
I think episode 3 just wrote itself. The
There you go.
Strength and Motion Network. Because again, I- if you really, I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is you're doing. You got to have a network. So
How does that
definitely,
work?
motion. I mean, excuse me, in motion. Episode 3. That is something we will definitely touch.
Last thing, man,
What's up?
snmotion.com.
SNmotion.com.
You can reach out to us. We will have our first high school season. It'll be this year, 25-26. We will play in the SWIAC, will be our main league we'll play in. But like G said, we're in conversations with other leagues that are national leagues. But it's gonna be a great platform. We'll play who you need to play. You'll play in front of who you need to play in front of. Um,
Because of
Everything
the
will be
network.
available. The
Hey,
net.
Mark's being modest right now, man. Like it's like it's I think it's so necessary, man. We and that's the reason why we're getting it out there, man. We want these kids, especially locally, to understand. Hey, this is what we got, man, and we're excited about this year. And come on.
Come on. I
Come
love it.
on.
I think this is gonna be big. Again, I don't know the ins and outs, and I know y'all got some stuff you got to keep under the cap. But strength and motion. What do we call it? Strength and motion high school? Is that what?
We are going to be Strength in Motion Icemen.
I know y'all heard that.
Hmm.
Take that ice cup a little bit. I think you drink strength and motion Iceman.
Yes, yes.
Well, hey, G, I know you got a lot going on up there where you are. Mark, I can't thank y'all enough. I'm so excited about this show. We're gonna be consistent.
Most
We're gonna
definitely.
have some
Awesome.
players in here. We're gonna
Yeah.
do some different things. We're gonna talk about a whole bunch of
Awesome.
different topics. Sometimes we'll go down, memory lane, but all in
Just
all, this is going to be a show for a bunch of great information for this platform, for this area for this, situation that you two guys are in. So I appreciate y'all's time. G, be
thank you.
safe.
All
Mark,
right now.
be
Thanks for
safe.
having us.
Appreciate
Rudy,
y'all.
Mark, appreciate you.
snmotion.com.
snmotion.com. Strength and Motion Iceman.
Boom.
It'll love it. They
Very
here.
good.
Yes, sir.
All
Cool.
right.